creating life. The Florida Fertility Expo is bringing medical experts and women experiencing fertility challenges together to help find solutions that lead to parenthood. And joining me now are Expo founder Michelle McKoy and Dr. Tricia Shaw, an obstetrician and gynecologist who specializes in assisting patients with fertility. Thank you both for joining me on Voices.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You got it, Michelle. Let's start with you. You turned your pain into purpose after your struggle with getting pregnant. So talk about that and how you're helping others.
Wonderful. I was diagnosed with endometriosis. And through that journey, I was connected to the world of infertility and the struggles that people experience in regards to having children. And that was the first time that I really had to face what my future could possibly look or not look like. And so in that process, I tried to find solutions, find answers, and it led me to starting the Florida Fertility Expo, where we were able to create a one-stop shop where industry professionals, community leaders and partners could all come together, sharing information about the services, the latest modalities, and how we can impact other people on their journey.
Amen. And we're going to get to that a little bit more in our discussion. Dr. Shaw, she mentioned it. Michelle did. Talk about endometriosis.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about fertility, we think about and evaluate for different causes what may underlie women or couples to have issues with fertility, and endometriosis is one of them. So endometriosis is essentially an inflammatory disease that happens inside the body. It can have effects on the actual fallopian tubes, and so the fallopian tubes can become scarred or blocked, causing infertility, or can cause issues with egg quality. It's fairly common. Actually, about 10% of reproductive age women have it, and it often goes undiagnosed. Sometimes just the time to diagnosis can be over 7 years.
Dr. Shaw, talk about some of the other things that may lead to infertility in women, some of the other health issues, things that we may take for granted or may not know about.
Yeah, so, infertility can really be multifactorial. So there's lots of reasons. When we think about it, we actually evaluate both partners. So we think about there's a male component and there's a female component. So when we think about the female, we think about things that can affect your reproductive organs. So your uterus, so we can think about structural things, fibroids, polyps, growths on the uterus that could potentially cause problems. We think about the fallopian tubes. Is there a reason to have blockages? Do we have history of ectopic pregnancy? So we evaluate the fallopian tubes, and then we think about the ovaries. Are we able to release an egg every month? Are we able to ovulate? There are issues such as PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome. Or are we having issues with age-related fertility decline that's very significant? So these are all things that we think about when we evaluate patients initially to try and understand what's underpinning their issue with infertility.
And let's talk about women of color.
Sure.
And is there a disproportionate number of women of color as opposed to white women that may be impacted by infertility? Is it the same? And if so, if there is a disproportionate number, why?
Yeah, so it's really it's a complex question. So when we break it down, one, we think about, is there any racial or genetic predisposition to actual chronic conditions themselves? For example, we know that African American women have a higher predisposition to develop uterine fibroids, for example. So we think about not only the impact of, what are their underlying disease potentially, do we screen for them any differently, but we know that another issue becomes access to care and thinking about resources.
And Michelle, I have to ask you, when you found out that you were pregnant, after all of this, you talked about going through this journey for 20 years. When you found out, talk about the joy that you felt.
We had 2 failed IVFs prior to my third and final transfer. And when I found out that we were pregnant, I was ecstatic. For a whole week, I tested every single day. I was in disbelief. I just couldn't believe we were really there. But even though we were pregnant, it didn't mean that we had just finished, we've crossed the finish line. We now had to carry the baby for 9 months. And so at that point, we really had to hunker down with all of our, increased nutritional intake and just being careful and protective of this baby until she was born. And so here we are now. She's running around. Give me a run for my money.
Dr. Shaw, how many times does it take? How many attempts when you're going through this? And then to the cost. Do I have to be rich in order to get IVF?
It could be accomplished in one cycle. It could take years of treatment. The truth of the matter is we don't know any more than you do on some level how long this journey could be. But to get to that point of what that means for cost, yes, it's certainly a huge factor, and it's to be honest, a big barrier in terms of access to care. We are certainly advocates for increased access to care, and I do believe we're moving in that direction. And there's more insurance coverage for that as well.
Well, last year we spoke to actress Kayleigh Stewart, who is using her platform to advocate and encourage women to freeze their eggs to expand their reproductive options. Why is it that you decided to do this? That you decided to freeze your eggs?
Well, I gave away my best baby-making years to the wrong man. It's as simple as that. I was in a long-term relationship for 7 years, and because I wasn't thinking about my fertility health and that the fact that I was in that relationship so long, I was actually giving away my biology. Not just my time, not just my energy, but women are born with as many eggs as they're ever going to have. With men, it's a little bit different.
So is this part of the process, to freeze your eggs?
It's becoming a big topic of conversation because I think it helps level the playing field. When we talk about fertility preservation, we're talking about providing access to be able to build your families in the time that you want and in the way that you want to do that. And that is a really important factor for women to know. And I think one of the biggest things is it's incredibly empowering.
What do you want to say to women out there that may be watching this morning that may feel that they have no place to turn, Michelle?
I will tell them to not stop believing. Do not stop believing. As long as you are capable of envisioning, then you should never stop believing. I had my child at the age of 50. I didn't think I'd be able to do that. And here I am as a testimony to anyone who feels like the road has ended for them, that dream has ended for them, that there are lots of options available.
Share the details about the Florida Fertility Expo, because I know some are watching. Okay, tell me all about it.
Well, the expo has 4 pillars. We look at infertility awareness, maternal health, femtech, and also maternal health. All taking place at the Urban League in Broward County on April 19th, Saturday 19th, between 10 and 5 p.m. Cost is $15 to enter. We have a raffle prize, several raffle prizes. One is an IVF giveaway through one of our participants. So anyone who buys a raffle ticket has an access to enter for the IVF giveaway.
Michelle, Dr. Shaw, thank you both. Very enlightening. I've learned something as well. So thank you. There's a lot of information, and I'm sure a lot of people want to take advantage of it. Thank you both so much for joining us on Voices.
Thank you for having us.
You got it.